are talking about buying and leasing solar panels, which is the better option. Our company recommends that everybody purchase their panels. We're going to go through the benefits and negative aspects of both options. We're joined by two of our sales consultants, David and Tyler. Myself, I am our senior brand director, and Vivian, who's the director of customer success. So we'll all be kind of chiming in, giving some information on this topic and just some information about our business, how long we've been around, the services that we offer, and if you're interested in moving forward, the information that we need from you to give you a quote and pre-qualify you for some of our loan options if you're interested in that, or if you'd like to pay cash. We're going to go through the benefits of that as well. So who is Solar Negotiators? How long have we been in business? We were founded in 2009. We are a local company. Our CEO, Chris Moran, is a U.S. Marine veteran. He had an idea on how he wanted to make solar affordable for everybody. And there were some pretty expensive rates at that time. The solar cost didn't really come down until a few years after we had started the business, but we are now one of the Valley's largest local contractors with over 12,000 installation and maintenance clients. We are reliable because we are the only company that provides a lifetime workmanship warranty, maintenance and monitoring with all of our solar contracts. And we are the highest reviewed solar company, I say in the Central Valley, but I believe we are the highest rated in California in terms of how many 5-star reviews we have online on Google, Yelp. We have a very high customer satisfaction rating because that is top of mind for our CEO and everybody that works for our company. What is the difference? All right. Tyler, do you want to go over some of the negative? Well, you could just start by explaining what is a lease and why it's different maybe than a solar loan.
Sure. Well, to start off, there are essentially two ways of going solar. One is by ownership. The other is by what is considered a lease or a power purchase agreement. They both kind of fall under the same category. That is, you don't own them at all. One of those is called a power purchase agreement. What that means is that you enter into an agreement with a solar company. You don't own the system. They put a solar system on your roof and you agree to pay that company for what that system produces. The other is kind of like leasing a car where you're renting the panels and paying the solar company for the panels that you're renting. Both of them usually incur about a 20 to 25 year agreement. And most of the cases are PPAs, power purchase agreements. There's a lot of difficulty with those types of approaches. I used to work for companies that sold those kinds of things. And as I learned more about the business, I found that I eventually my morals kind of welled up within me. I knew I wasn't selling the best thing, which actually caused me to leave solar sales for a while. But when I came back and I learned about the benefits of ownership, it really changed my opinion. So some of the negative aspects of leasing or a power purchase agreement is because you don't own it, you don't get any of the tax credit, right? So that's part of the way these companies make money, is that they install the system on your home, and then they get to claim the tax benefit right away, which is 26% of its value, which they assess. So they get to, essentially write up a contract for themselves to pay them what they'd like. And then they make the money over the course of the 20 to 25 years with them, which is somewhere in the ballpark of, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, just depending on how large that system is and what you've agreed to pay them. Some of the other downfalls of that system is that there's usually what's called an escalator clause, meaning because they're assuming the utility rates are going to be progressing over the years, typically at 6% a year. That's what we've seen. It's been much higher lately as a result of some of what's going on in the economy. but there's typically in those contracts a 4% escalator clause, meaning you're going to be paying 4% more for the power that you're using or purchasing from these systems over the course of the 20 to 25 years. So that being said, also, and not to get too much into the details, but if with systems like that, with a power purchase agreement, you pay for what that system produces. Now, the difficult thing about that is that if you don't use all of that power, you're still paying for it. So if your system is oversized, meaning it's too big, right? So you're not using what it's producing, you're still paying for all of that power that that system's producing. And then if it's undersized, you typically will end up paying what's called a true up statement, which is based on an annual cycle. So at the end of the year, you'll end up owing the utility company as well as all the money you've paid for the system you're using. So there are certain instances where, in certain cases that system actually didn't end up benefiting clients. So it does happen. But typically you do end up saving something. So there is some benefit to doing a lease or a PPA in the sense that you're paying less for power overall than you would be otherwise.
And you'd say, you and David, that it's much more common for lease systems to be undersized. I don't think I've ever heard of a lease system being oversized, but yeah. David, did you have anything to add about your experience with leases versus loans, or just paying in full in terms of?
No, I think Tyler hit it really well. Explained the differences there. I've got some personal experience having had a PPA on a previous home. So if you want me to share that later, I'm happy to, but I think Tyler hit it perfect.
Yeah, Vivian's going to give some examples of not our clients, but clients of other companies that have called in with questions. And I bet you're probably in one of those scenarios. So maybe you could give your firsthand experience when we get to that slide. So do either one of you want to cover, the positive aspects of a solar purchase or loan versus a lease system?
David, I'll leave that to you if you'd like.
Yeah, no worries. So on the opposite side of the spectrum, you've got the purchase or either cash or financing through a loan. But the positive aspects of owning the system now is that, unlike the lease, now that tax credit is for you. So you're able to take advantage now of that tax credit if available. And again, there's some individual circumstances or factors to keep into place as far as, or to take into consideration as far as whether you get that tax credit or not. It's not a guarantee, but if there's a tax credit available, your system qualifies for it, that would go to you. Just like Tyler had said before with the leases, if you're doing a loan, your savings are immediate. Typically, your loan payment is significantly less than what you would have been paying for electricity from the utility company. Potential for increasing your home value because you own the system. It becomes an asset that you sell with the house. So you'll notice when you look at all of the listings on realtor.com or the MLS, if they own if the solar is loaned or owned, you'll see in big bold letters owned solar on there. So it definitely can not just increase the home value, but can dramatically increase the time in which it's sold. As far as the shorter length, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, it's kind of seen rather as an added benefit and to sell your home and to provide an annual NEMS, like a true up statement to prove how much energy it's offset is just usually Absolutely. Like a huge selling benefit.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask Tyler about the home inspection that we offer, but go ahead and finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. Well, and like Tyler had said, with the with leases, you're typically getting locked into a 20 to 25 year contract. By owning the system, if you pay outright, I mean, you own the system right away. If you're doing a loan, you can do anywhere from a 5-year loan to a 25-year loan. So you can kind of choose how long it is you want to pay on it. Again, your return on investment is much, much faster and much, much better. If you pay cash, your typical payback, the typical payback period is around 6 to 7.5 years for payback. So you're cash flow positive after that point. And then the last note on there is it is much easier to transfer when you own the solar system as opposed to leasing it.
You know what I got to add too is like most of the, like I do this math, and David, you do too, but when you calculate in the tax credit and I often see less than 5 years on a return on investment. And that's if the rates stay the same. You know, if the rates continue to go up, that return is even better. And those are real numbers. You know.
So we're going to go over the positive aspects of the lease PPA option as well. But you'll find with our company, a lot of this is included, which we'll go over on the next slide, but not every company has these options. They're kind of company to company. You can instantly save on your monthly electric costs with both options. There's a low upfront cost. Not every solar company, I mean, I don't know, maybe Tyler can confirm that not every company probably has zero money down financing options, but we do offer that. You want to just explain how there's like an opinion out there that leasing is no money down versus financing and how ours works, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to chime in. So, you know, these are kind of the selling points that salesmen will use to sell you on a PPA or a lease, right? They preach these as being the reason to sell. And I mean, it sounds great, right? You say, hey, you know, you immediately save money. You just low your work, you know, say, for example, we're going to cut $150 off your power bill right away with no money down, right? And then you don't have to worry about maintaining this thing at all. It's like, oh yeah, obviously that sounds great because it's better than what I have. You know, but you know, there's many ways to do these leases. I mean, some of them are prepaid leases, right? Where it's almost like a purchase, but you're buying out the lease ahead of time. And so that's one way of doing it. But even when they're preaching these things to you, it's often a little bit misleading in the sense that it's kind of a distraction from what could be a potential better option, which is through ownership, which often, I mean, especially with our company, there are financing options that require no money down at all, right? You immediately, and the way these transitions work is you move from paying PG&E right into a financing payment. It's a smooth transition, and that's what many of our financing clients do, right? And those same savings, because you often finance it for less than what you're paying PG&E already as well, are found with a financing option. So it's, you know, these things are a bit misleading when they're preaching these things like that. And then the last of it, the free maintenance, this is really dependent upon the company you go with, because ownership does come with the fact that you own it. So it is on you to maintain it. But depending on which company you have, there's often a lot of warranties involved. You know, there's different types of warranties, like the manufacturer warranty, which covers the equipment, and then the workmanship warranty, which is usually covered by the contractor. And so our company provides an all-inclusive lifetime warranty on all of our installs. So for as long as they live in the home, we're going to be maintaining it for them. So it is better than some of these PPAs, because often those PPAs are often nationwide companies as well, meaning they're so big that they don't have many men on the ground. So when maintenance does need to happen, the big nationwide company needs to find a contractor in the area, sub out the work, and that adds a substantial amount of time, and often reflects in their reviews as a service downfall because they don't have those people taking care of them. So being that we're local, we have over 100 employees, we often, the value of our our purchase. It covers all the values of the PPA and then some, being that we're local and fast with our service. So.
Yeah, so what he just said, we offer all of these benefits with our solar contract and warranty. So there's really there's no contest in which decision is the better option, because even all the positive aspects of leasing are, you can get the same coverage with us and the same savings. So yeah, like Tyler said, of course, a lease or a PPA can be better than paying the full utility amount that you would normally pay, but you're locked into this long-term agreement. It's basically just a lost opportunity that you could have saved more money with a solar loan or cash purchase. With cash purchase, you're going to make your money back much faster because you're not having to pay any interest on a loan. So it's going to cost less for one overall, but you're not making small monthly payments. You've paid for the whole thing. You're just waiting to make your return on investment as your savings add up. Tyler, what would you say if someone said, I don't really want to finance because I don't want the debt? I would rather just have a low monthly payment and save. How would you sell them on that if they had that concern?
Well, they don't want the debt. Well, debt to income ratio. That's a really rare. I mean, I could see, I guess, why someone wouldn't want the debt to income ratio, but the real thing there is just weighing it out, right? That you can't have everything you want, right? So the question is, well, which is better to you? I mean, do you want to take on this debt for the one day promise to not have to pay anything or close to nothing for power, right? Or do you want to enter into an eternal agreement with some other solar company that you have to pay forever on, and that comes with a net liability on the value of your home potentially? So these are the things you want to weigh out. I mean, if a person does not want to go into debt, it's possible that it may not be a smart decision to go solar. I mean, if that's a big issue for them.
Unless they can't pay cash, but not go into debt, just having a payment. I would say that they're gonna pay the same amount or more anyway. So our goal is to reduce that monthly amount by financing. Yeah.
That's kind of what I would say, is that this is an amount you're going to pay. You're going to pay something for power every month, whether you're paying PG&E, whether you're paying a loan, or whether you're paying a PPA or a lease. You're making that payment no matter what. So it's all a matter of what's the best way of applying that payment, right? Most people that we talk to own their houses. Well, why own a house versus just renting, right? Because you see the value of adding, a building equity and making your money worth something, and that payment that you're making worth something.
Yeah, I may not have understood the question. I think I do get what you mean. Like when one hand the money's being reinvested into yourself, and the other is just going in toward some other company, right?
Yeah, and again, it's going to protect you from that any future increases in utility costs, in addition to the monthly savings. So you're going to lock in that rate, and you won't be subject to any utility rate increases, like he said, could possibly occur in the lease and the PPA. Would you say 4% or 5% was in the contract, usually the escalator?
I've seen typically it's 4%, right? So they're undercutting the power company by the national average of 6%, by a couple of points. However, it's very upsetting to see that bill continue to go up.
Yeah, and I can expect with gas prices being so high and inflation, those are probably going to go up quite a bit before the year's over. All right. yeah, so cash purchase is the best option if you have the savings available, but solar loans are also a great option. And again, you get both benefits of leasing and purchasing through us. Not that I don't even know. I don't think do we offer a leasing option now? We didn't offer it for years, but I think we did adopt one. Tyler or David?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically within our in-house company. We don't promote that. We do have some, some of our dealers that offer that through their own company. We install for them, but it's not something, we still believe in ownership.
All right, Vivian, are you available? But maybe we could have David give us his. Okay, let me know, David, if the situation is like yours. Hi, I'm trying to sell my home and the buyer is requesting that I buy out the solar lease. How do I do that? Use this picture of Tyler from our commercial. I think typically people are offered a buyout either at 5 to 7 years. Some of them are, I think, all the way to 10 years. I don't think that's as common anymore, but they usually charge you a lot more than the system is actually valued at. And it's also depreciated a bit at that point. The efficiency is a little bit lower than when you first would have paid for it. So they're not really factoring that in at all. And they're actually inflating the price quite a bit just to deter people from trying to get out of their lease. This is typically a problem when people are trying to sell their home or they've realized purchasing was a better option. They want to cancel and they call us a lot of the times because of our name, for one, but also we're one of the top companies in our area. So we get this question all the time. Unfortunately, we can't do much for them. We could just give them advice. But if they do opt out and they want a system installed, we can go ahead and repair the roof or do a removal and reinstall. We do that sometimes if they buy out of the system and they own it, we can then remove it. That is a very costly option, but it does happen. And some people have a lot older systems or they'd like to take the panels off and move them to another property. We've done that as well. But Vivian, do you want to go into just like a situation that we've had recently with a client calling you with that question?
Yes, we've had clients call in wanting to help us like either buy out their system or if there's any legal things they can do to get out of the lease system they're in. They get a lot of lack of follow-up as well. So they have the solar installed and they try to call their company over and over and over again and they get no follow-up. So they have, sometimes their systems are down, some panels are out, and it takes months for them to get a call back. Also, I've seen a lot of homeowners when they're going to sell their home, that buyout amount. I had an example, this was just recently. I think it was like 5 or 6 years left and she's selling her home and they said it was like $76,000 she'd have to pay off so that, she could sell her home. So, and I feel, helpless in that situation. And again, that's all we can do is offer advice. But yeah, we get a lot of clients that are wanting to have, wishing they hadn't went and leased instead. So
yeah, and unfortunately, we actually can't perform. We have a pretty large maintenance and repair division, and we can't touch the system if it's not owned, for one, unless it would void the warranty and we would take on that. But if they don't own the system, we typically don't really touch the inverter or the panels or any of the wiring. So we actually can't perform repairs on lease systems either. All we can do is provide advice at that point. If they choose to buy out of their system, we could adopt it, which we call it system adoption. We provide them with troubleshooting and maintenance and monitoring, so they know that their system's functioning and that we'll catch any, our system flags us if there's any production issues. So they just know, they can rest assured that when they're with our company that they're covered and they have someone that can respond to their issue within, a reasonable amount of time. David, what was your situation that you had with your lease system?
So I actually had a PPA on my previous house, and I bought into it thinking that I was only going to pay them whatever power I needed, and that was the way they presented it. There was a lot more to it. There was a lot of fine print that the company didn't go over with me. But the biggest impact that it had on us was when we tried to sell our house. Just like you're talking here, we had a couple of buyers that wanted to buy the house, but did not want to take over the lease. So we had to find a way to either prepay the lease or buy the system, and either way was exorbitantly expensive. So selling our previous house with the PPA was definitely an experience. So to be honest with you, I don't really know that we saved all that much money when we had our PPA anyways, because we were stuck with a very, very large true-up bill every single year. I think my true-up bill was no less than $2,500. The last year we were there, it was closer to $3,600. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I do know these calls have picked up since the mandate of new construction with solar. When I was going to buy a home in Madera, I looked at the neighborhood and noticed most of the houses only had 8 or 10 panels. I think it's like 8 to 12, like the average. Tiny. Probably not going to cover all the needs. They have estimations that they make based on, the square footage and everything, but you don't really know. It's not going to be custom to your home. So you'll probably owe a little bit, but we can do a system addition on a lease, not on a lease system, but on a home if we have a separate inverter. And I know that's becoming more and more common because it's mandatory on all new construction. So there's a ton of new homeowners in the last few years that have been stuck with either a small system that they financed with their mortgage or they opted for the lease, but it's not covering all their needs. So I think we've had like a 50% increase in the amount of calls that we get for system additions in the last just like year alone. So this has been an issue that we're trying to help homeowners with, but it is kind of difficult to navigate when you're dealing with a lease, because then you have a lease and you have to pay your solar financing loan amount on top of that. But hopefully your energy would be completely offset if we quoted you. Oh, Viv, were you going to add something?
Oh, I was just going to say that's also one of the number one complaints is true-ups. Their systems not sized correctly for their needs. And so that's a lot of the calls we get are from people who lease, that they are inquiring like large true-ups, and they're actually paying more than they had before they put the lease system on. So we've had quite a few of that.
Is that possible?
Increased.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Well, sometimes people use more energy because they think they can because they have solar, but sometimes the solar's not working and they don't know. So, all right, let's move on. Vivian, do you have any other lease phone call situations that you've come across, or that's pretty much the most common one, huh?
Yeah, the true up, a lot of the homeowners selling their homes, that's the second, and just lack of follow-up with their clients. I think those are the three main ones.
So here's some other considerations. These aren't really, I mean, I guess they'd be negative aspects of opting for a PPA or a lease. Like I said, you don't own those. So not only are you not allowed to remove them, no solar company other than yours is allowed to go and touch them, let alone remove them off of your roof unless you own them. So you would have to buy out of that lease. There's, I think we've touched on this a few times. There's no local presence usually with these leasing companies because they're very large national companies. They don't have a local service technician group. So there's longer turnaround times or no turnaround times. Like Vivian said, there's no follow-up. They don't answer the phone or they just take a very long time to get out to your home to fix the issue. Tyler, could you go over number 3? That one. I'm just going over the liability of the.
Yeah, well, yeah, so you're saying, yeah, I mean, I guess what you're saying is when you go to sell your home, if or if
Oh,
you go to
paying out of it. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, if you're trying to get out of the contract, so it's it's typically what we're dealing with here is these lease agreements will, often, and I think David, you had shared this, what they do is if you're wanting to pay out of the lease or the PPA, what they do is they give you what they call a fair market value, right? So they come out, they take into consideration nothing you've paid them already and do an assessment on the system's value. Now, our company, we value our system based on labor, equipment, things like that, right? We give you a fair price based on those things. This company is basing the value of the system on what you would have paid them over the course of the lease or the PPA. So they often will end up charging you. I mean, we've heard stories of people getting stuck with a $72,000 solar system, that shouldn't have been worth more than 30, if they would have owned it. So what ends up happening though is because they slap on a UCC1 fixture lien when you go to sell or transfer title. That new buyer needs to agree to the PPA or the lease agreement, or it's on you to get out of that home, because that UCC1 fixture lien makes it impossible to transfer that title without taking care of that lien. And so that lien's value is based on what that solar company wants to hold you accountable for, and that's a bit difficult.
Yeah, and it just creates issues when trying to sell your home. Obviously, if you don't own it, the new homeowner will have to assume that loan, or sorry, the remainder of the PPA term with a transfer, or you have to buy out the lease, which can be very expensive. How do I get pre-qualified? So we would need your contact information, your address to see how the system would fit on your roof if that's what you want. We also do ground mount installations. We need your utility account information to pull your consumption for the year and base the system size off of that. And we'd also need a credit score. If you'd like to get started, just either scan this code with your phone or go to solarnegotiators.com. Thank you for joining our webinar.